Hello everyone, this is Rexer of the YouTube channel NotQuiteThereGaming, and today I have for you a slightly special Warframe video because, as you know, Damage 2.0 has been deployed a few months ago, and it sadly ruined all my wonderful rainbow gun builds. In the meantime, I've waited, I've bided my time, expecting to see Damage 2.0 settle, and recently it has done just that. To begin with, I needed to wait for them to finalize the damage types and their effects, but recently they released a feature that lets you swap polarities in your weapons so that you can better deal with how you combine elements in Damage 2.0. instead of having to repolarize again. So I think Damage 2.0 has settled enough, and today we're gonna have a look at actually my first weapon build since Damage 2.0 has been put out. I know that sounds kind of odd, but I've been able to deal with using my weapons as they were before Damage 2.0 or slightly modified to not completely suck. But today we're gonna take a look at a brand new build for Damage 2.0 and for a new weapon. I think it turned out pretty well, and I think you're gonna love it. Actually, to start off with, first let's say which weapon it is. It's the Phage. It's a clan tech weapon. And I'm gonna tell you right now, pause this video, go in game, and get it. Okay, are you back? If you didn't go, I mean it. Go, get it. If you have it in your clan, get it from there, start building it. If you don't have the research done, bug someone to pump resources into making the research happen. If you can't get any of that, buy it off the store. I'm serious, it's that good. Okay? So, with that bit of enthusiasm out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the gun. It's a shotgun type weapon, but it's not really a shotgun. It uses shotgun ammo, shotgun mods, but it's more akin to a tentacle doom weapon sort of dealio. Energy tentacles of mass murderization, if you will. So the weapon is completely special. It's not par for the course, not none of the mill in any way. So everything about it is interesting, perhaps not completely new, because it bears some resemblance to the flux rifle, but it's a very special weapon. It deals viral damage, which is a combination type of damage. It deals quite a lot of viral damage. It also starts with a bit of a spread to its shot, which you can narrow with the use of right click while shooting. It narrows the beam until it can get to be as accurate as the flux rifle itself. It's a continuous fire weapon like the flux rifle, but that's kind of where the parallel starts and where the parallel ends. It's a continuous fire weapon like the flux rifle. That's all they have in common. It's a very good weapon. A very good weapon, and right now with this build I hope to show you why. We are not only going to take a look at what mods I will be slotting into it, but also talk briefly about the damage that will result and possible synergies with auras, Warframe mods, and Warframes themselves. So let's get started. I've done this build with 3 forma. I see some people saying that you need 4 forma to make this weapon work. You don't need 4 forma, but if you put a 4th attack polarity in, you will have some extra flexibility for using it with some of the synergies that I will be talking about later. Still, you can make it work really nicely with just 3 extra attack polarities. It starts with a tactical polarity, which I've moved right here. Obviously, Catalyst installed, and we're gonna slot some very predictable mods and some very glitchy, maybe, I don't know, surprisingly synergetic mods. But let's get started with the obvious. Hell's Chamber, obviously, the first choice. Multi-shot, no-brainer choice in any ranged weapon build in Warframe. Nothing to really say about it, except it's a really rare mod, and I wish you luck finding it. And if you find more of it, don't be like me and fuse it into this one, into just one. Keep them around, and maybe you can actually sell them for quite a pretty penny. So yeah, hang on to these. Next we have Point Blank. Straight up bonus base damage to shotguns. After that, we're gonna put in Vicious Spread, which is a Orokin Vault only mod. It has a drawback, but for Phage, the drawback is not that important. It increases the spread of the firing beams to start with, but you can still narrow them to a perfect point. I have read information that suggests that the time it takes to narrow the beams down to a point is the same even with spread or other mods that affect accuracy, spread of the weapon, but I'm not able to confirm or deny that fact. So moving right along, we have Blaze. Blaze is a mod that upgrades damage, base damage, but also adds fire damage. It's gonna force us into a certain type of build because of the extra fire damage, but you want the extra base damage to boost the effectiveness of everything else. Blaze is a nightmare mode reward mod. You can also find it on certain nightmare alerts. Oh, and as a side note, if you put extra viral damage on the weapon, it doesn't count as extra base damage, so it doesn't boost the other elemental mods. So we're gonna take a brief look at how the weapon looks right now. These damage numbers usually aren't 100% correct, but at least the final numbers that we will be getting, I have checked with my own spreadsheets, and we can sort of safely assume that they are correct for the purposes of this presentation. As you can see, the viral damage is getting pretty high. The heat damage as a result is also pretty high. Because viral is a combination type, if you slot another elemental mod, you will inadvertently end up comboing with whatever other elemental mod you slot in next. So, like I was saying, Blaze is necessary because you boost base damage, but it sort of forces us into a certain elemental build because of the extra fire damage that we will need to either combo with something or try to very much avoid comboing with something. It's gonna be a little bit tricky to build around that. Now, in my principal build, which is what I want to present first of all in this video, I use Incendiary Coat as the next mod, which adds more fire damage. And then I go with Chilling Grasp, because I want to morph this fire damage into blast damage. Chilling Grasp, Incendiary Coat both add 90%, each add 90% extra elemental damage, and with Blaze, the fire damage from Blaze, they all combo into blast damage. Now blast damage has a proc of knockdown, of sort of AoE knockdown, so it's I would say good for a continuous fire weapon like Phage, because it gives you a chance to stop the enemies from shooting back while you have to keep the beam on them. So that's why I chose Blast. There are I think two other possible combinations with heat damage. That is radiation and gas, I believe. Gas is kind of bleh. Radiation is alright, but the effect of radiation is similar to Nyx's Chaos, and if you want to be killing that enemy, that particular enemy, it's gonna be maybe on par with Blast with knockdown, but the effect of confusing that enemy won't come into play, so it all depends on how good of coverage you get with the damage type. I personally think that Blast gets better coverage and complements the natural viral damage of Phage better than what was it? Radiation. Yes, radiation. Also, to get radiation, you would need to slot Charged Shell, and that costs 2 extra mod points, which would require that extra forma. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The next mod we will be slotting is Accelerated Blast. Now, Accelerated Blast will increase the rate of fire of this weapon, and I can tell you that I have tested the rate of fire of the weapon, and it does seem to be affected by rate of fire mods. There was a time where the Flux Rifle was allegedly not affected by rate of fire mods, but I can tell you with reasonable certainty that Phage is affected by rate of fire mods. I've run some tests, which I will be showing you very briefly later, and I say that with a big grin. You will find out why. But yeah, the fire rate and the extra puncture damage both really boost the damage per second of this weapon. But hold on, why extra puncture damage? There's no puncture damage on this weapon to begin with. You must be crazy. I mean, you're wasting half of this mod, Rexer. Well, actually, it's weird, because if you try to slot something like where is it? Like a mod that just upgrades puncture damage on this weapon, like Flechette. For example, let's give this a try. Apply. You can see there's no puncture damage, because there's no puncture damage to boost to begin with. But if you slot Accelerated Blast, presto, puncture damage. Is that just a tooltip bug? No, it's not, because I see puncture damage proccing on enemies. I'm partial to puncture damage to begin with, but you can just call it extra damage, an extra 1.5k damage per shot. And by those numbers right there, you can start to see where we're going with this. There's only one more mod that we need to slot in, and that is going to be Shotgun Spaz, also fire rate. So As you can see, this is a very tight build. It's a complete build. If you have all these mods, some of which are rare, like Hell's Chamber, Vicious Spread, maybe hard to get, Blaze, hard to get, Accelerated Blast, also a Nightmare mode reward, so you might have a hard time getting that if you haven't gotten it already. But it's easy to build because there are no mods that you need to boost a high number of levels, so you can complete this pretty early compared to, say, something that requires Serration or Hornet Strike. And let's look at the damage. Let's see, we have 1.5k puncture damage, 5.8k blast damage, and 2.4k viral damage. Viral damage, by the way, procs a effect that reduces target damage, target HP by 50% for 6 seconds. It's really nice, but might be that their HP is already reduced by the time it procs, so Anyway, 1.5k plus, let's say, 2.5k, that's 4k, plus 5.8k, that's 9.8k damage per shot, at a rate of 2.5 shots, if you will, complete damage cycles per second. So my spreadsheets inform me that that amounts to a total of 24,684 damage per second. My spreadsheets are a bit different from the numbers that you get here, but just by a little. So yeah, I just said 24k damage per second out of this weapon. You can kill most regular mission mobs with the damage this weapon does without even tightening the spread. And that means that you do that amount of damage to everything in the spread, which is quite big, which means this is an AoE weapon to begin with, which you can just vaporize trash mobs. And if you tighten it, you can vaporize bosses. So this is wonderful. It's a wonderful weapon. If you want to modify it a bit and go for that extra polarity, you can, for example, forego shotgun spaz and try to put in maybe a charged shell or some other elemental mod that you like. And then you will get 19,000 damage per second, and a little bit of extra ammo efficiency. With this build right here, we get 16 seconds of continuous fire time from one clip. With the build I just suggested, we would get 25 seconds of continuous fire with a full clip. So it's it might be in your interest to try that out, but I'm a proponent of Overkill, because as you know, the only good kill is Overkill, so more damage is better, even if you're gonna end up maybe bleeding a little bit for ammo. But that's what ammo boxes are for, right? And if you pace yourself, if you don't go too quick on the trigger finger with this weapon, you can achieve pretty good efficiency even with this high fire rate build. Now, the next part of this video is going to deal with synergies. Synergies with, first of all, aura mods on your Warframe, of course. There aren't actually that many aura mods that you might be interested in. The first would be enemy radar. And as you know, I love enemy radar. I love enemy sense, the regular mod counterpart of enemy radar. For Phage, knowing where enemies are ahead of time means you can adjust your beam ahead of time and be ready for them when you face them, which is pretty useful considering that with a continuous fire weapon you will be exposing yourself to their fire. A early on, especially if you need to tighten the beam in an engagement instead of prior to an engagement. Also, it helps to know where large clumps of enemies are, so you can go over there and vaporize a whole lot of them. It's really fun, you should try it. The next aura mod that could synergize with Phage is Shotgun Scavenger for the ammo problems that you might be experiencing with this high fire rate build, but I wouldn't invest in that much. Better to have some ammo boxes, I think. I don't know, if you wanna try it. A maybe aura synergy would be corrosive projection, which lowers enemy armor, but I'm not entirely sure how that actually factors in. You might want to look into that, but I can't tell you without any doubt that it will help or not. And also I've read that, sadly, rifle amp does not affect shotgun weapons, so you won't be getting any boost from that, which is disappointing. That was actually the aura that I was hoping to most benefit from, but apparently it just doesn't work on shotguns. Mods wise, you would benefit, as I said, from enemy radar for the same reasons that you would benefit from enemy sense, for the same reasons that you would benefit from enemy radar. Now, moving on to warframes themselves. The first category is positioning synergy. You have Loki, my almost favorite warframe, maybe after Nyx, and his brother Ash, who are very synergetic with this weapon because they have invisibility, and because of that they won't be interrupted while they're firing the beam unless you're really bad at positioning yourself. They can go in and pick the exact angle of attack that they want on a group of enemies to get the best coverage with the beams of Phage, and overall they can get the most out of this weapon because of invisibility. A special mention goes out to Vauban, because Bastille and Vortex are always good skills to put your enemies where you want them rather than to put yourself where you want to be to kill your enemies. Next we have a few special synergies, and we're gonna start with Ember. Oh my, that is quite a lot of yellow. Please ignore that. It's obviously a work in progress. Ember has been blessed with one particular rework of her skills since she was released, and that is the replacement of one of her skills with Accelerant. And Accelerant, I believe, is a skill that briefly stuns enemies in a radius and also makes them more susceptible. Yes, that's the word. Susceptible to fire damage. It can make them take from anywhere from between 250% extra fire damage and 572% extra fire damage, depending on your power focus. That's obviously a pretty big deal, and as I said, we have to have fire damage, heat damage in this build because of Blaze. You can take out Chilling Grasp, for example, and leave in these two, and let's take a little look. That would leave the weapon with 3.6k heat damage, which multiplied by about 5 or 6 times, you get the picture. It's pretty brutal. Instead of that, in that little empty slot, you might want to consider slotting maybe a cleanse, depending on who you're facing, which doesn't need an extra forma, or you can't slot another another elemental mod because they'll combine, so you'll have to do with something else. Mods that enhance puncture, impact, and slash don't work on this weapon, so you will have to think of something else, and that could be perhaps Ravage. Seeking Force is a good choice. You can put it instead of Incendiary Coat, move it here and put an extra attack here and you're set. Shotgun, Ammo Mutation if you have it, maybe. Seeking Force though is probably my favorite choice because it not only punches through enemies but also punches through terrain, giving you quite a lot of extra options if you want to synergize Phage with Ember. But I still like this one better. Next we have Nova. Nova with antimatter drop. Because, well, even Nova with Molecular Prime will double the damage of any weapon, because it doubles the damage that enemies take. Enemies that are affected by Molecular Prime, that is, of course. But with antimatter drop, you can pump a lot of damage in that little ball of energy. The only problem is that at this moment you can't really slow down the antimatter drop as you're supposed to. I don't know why, I've tried a lot of things. But let's take a brief moment to imagine what it would be like to put 16 seconds of Phage fire into an antimatter drop that multiplies that damage by 4 times and then deals it to an enemy that is affected by Molecular Prime, which also doubles that damage. So let's think. 16 times 4 times 2 times the damage of Phage, which is 24k a second. It's a beautiful, beautiful dream. I wish I can see it. I wish I could see it in the game. Oh my. I'm gonna get sad now, because I can't see it, because antimatter drop is bugged. Moving on. We have Nyx. Nyx is a strange synergy because you don't actually synergize with Phage yourself. If you have a friend with Phage, you can synergize with it very nicely if you use Absorb and get your friend to shoot into your Absorb. Absorb basically turns the ludicrous damage of Phage into an easy AoE blast. Yes, an easy AoE blast. So think about, let's say, off the top of my head, I think with overextend and stretch it would be something around 25 meters, maybe 30 meters if you're lucky. That absorb effects when it explodes. And think about it. Think about how much damage that would be in an area of effect. I love this gun. Can you tell? Next we're gonna have some more straight up synergies. Beginning with Volt. Volt is still sort of a special synergy. With Electric Shield, you get an extra 50% electrical damage on your shot, but it also has a strange effect on weapons like Phage and the Flux Rifle, because it increases their range. The range of Phage and the Flux Rifle is a 25 meter maximum range. But with Electric Shield, if you're shooting through Electric Shield, it gives them infinite range, which is at the same time really weird and really fun. And as I mentioned, it does give extra damage. Next we have Rhino. Rhino's Roar is a very easy, I would say, straight up damage boost, because it affects you, not your enemies, so as long as the ability remains in effect, you can shoot whoever you want. They don't have to be in range when you're pulsing some sort of ability against them. Rhino's Roar boosts damage by 50% up to plus 114% depending on your power focus. So imagine how good that would be with the Phage. But the Warframe synergizing cake goes to Banshee. For obvious reasons that are extremely exciting, but it also means that takes a bit of finesse to get the most out of it. Whereas Rhino just boosts your damage, and Volt also just boosts your damage. Banshee, with Banshee you need to hit a certain weak spot, but with Banshee you get 500% extra damage against that weak spot, up to 1145% extra damage against that weak spot. So let's take a brief moment to imagine what it would be like as Banshee to shoot a target that has been affected by sonar with maximum power focus for 16 seconds. 24k times 16 times 11.45. I wish there was an enemy in the... No, I don't wish there was an enemy in the game with that much HP. Shut the fuck up, Rexer. Still, it's a very interesting thought. And as I said, the only good kill is Overkill. And Phage supplies Overkill by the truckload. So, when I saw how fast this weapon kills the Jackal, I cackled so loudly, my neighbors probably hate me right now. But it's too bad. So, here is a brief clip of how fast you can kill Jackal with this, with the shotgun spaz removed. Did you get it? Did you miss it? It was really short. And here is a brief clip of how fast you can kill the Jackal with shotgun spaz and the exact build that I was suggesting at the start. Pretty damn fast, huh? Sure, I focused the beams first. But it's awesome, isn't it? It's just awesome. I think I'm gonna make a series of shorts which basically will just feature me going around the solar system, killing things in record time with maybe slight adjustments to the Phage build. I'm gonna have so much fun. And I hope you will have a lot of fun watching them too. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this build video, and I hope you will have a lot of fun playing with Phage, though I'm gonna be a bit... it will be a bit bothersome seeing so many people running around with Phage. Maybe I shouldn't have made this video. Nah. I hope you're gonna have a lot of fun. There are obviously, I think, a few weapons that are still capable of out-DPSing Phage. But I haven't built them for damage 2.0 yet, so I don't know anything about those, and this is just effing wonderful. So, this has been it for my build of Phage. You thought it would be a short video, didn't you? Well, haha. If you've enjoyed this video or found it informative, please remember to subscribe for more. This is Rexer with the biggest grin on my face, signing off and going to vaporize a few planets with this gun because... oh yeah. Bye-bye.